The cold December air tasted like bitter regret, sharp as the scent of pine and cheap eggnog. For 6 months, I had played the part of Elara Vance, the overly earnest, slightly clumsy junior analyst, the easiest target in the cutthroat environment of Sterling & Cober's investment bank. Sterling was a fortress built on old money and older, uglier ambitions, and I, the supposed low-level drone, was the perfect subject for their seasonal cruelty. It was December 10th. The bank's annual Holiday Spirit Week had begun, less a celebration of goodwill and more a gauntlet of social warfare. Today's theme? The ugly Christmas sweater contest. I hadn't just played along, I had committed. The sweater I wore was a horrifying hand-knitted nightmare of clashing reds and greens, adorned with actual jingling bells and a light-up reindeer nose. It was strategically hideous, designed to amplify the existing perceptions of me. Simple, unrefined, and, most importantly, unthreatening. My immediate supervisor, Marcus Thorne, was the chief architect of my misery, a man whose ambition was as tailored as his expensive suits. Marcus viewed me not as a colleague, but as a stepping stone. He thrived on public ridicule, especially mine. He wanted my role, the very junior analyst position I intentionally played down, and treated me as a perpetual joke. He saw me as a placeholder, a temporary fixture before his actual protege could be hired in the new year. Little did he know, he was preparing the groundwork for his own spectacular downfall. The humiliation was immediate. Stepping onto the trading floor, the silence wasn't respectful. It was anticipatory. Then came the laughter, led by Marcus, a deep, performative bellow that echoed off the marble walls. "Vance," Marcus called, his voice carrying the false bonhomie of a man about to deliver a fatal blow. "I must say, that sweater, it perfectly captures your unique aesthetic. Did you lose a bet? Or is this just your way of asserting dominance over the ugly?" A wave of sycophantic snickers followed. Every associate, every partner was watching. They loved this spectacle. It validated their own sense of superiority. I forced a blush, adopting the character of the flustered, embarrassed analyst. "Oh, Marcus, I thought it was festive. My grandmother knitted it." The lie was necessary, cementing the image of the simple girl clinging to sentimental, poor taste. "Festive?" Marcus sneered, walking closer, pulling a thread from the monstrosity on my chest. "Elara, darling, at Sterling, we define festive as expensive and exclusive. This is tragically accessible. It screams community college, not global finance. Honestly, it's just distracting from the excellent work you almost managed to do." He said, "almost managed to do," loud enough for the senior partner, Mrs. Albright, to hear, ensuring the narrative of my incompetence was duly noted. But the shame wasn't real. Underneath that garish wool, I was coiled steel. I was not Elara Vance, junior analyst. I was Alexandra Sterling, the sole majority stake heir to the entire Sterling & Cumber fortune, and the hidden CEO of Phoenix Financial, Sterling's fiercest and most feared competitor. 6 months prior, I had taken a leave of absence from Phoenix, shedding my identity to infiltrate Sterling & Co. Hollers. I needed to know, firsthand, why the firm, my grandfather's legacy, was hemorrhaging assets, losing top clients, and suffering massive compliance violations that were always somehow erased before audit. My intuition, sharper than any algorithm, told me the corruption ran deep, centered around Marcus Thorne and a handful of silent partners who were systematically looting the foundation for their own shell corporations. The ugly sweater contest was just one drop in a reservoir of calculated disrespect Marcus had built up. He'd stolen my analysis, publicly credited himself with my successful pitch to the Langston Group, and systematically undermined my confidence with microaggressions masked as constructive criticism. Each slight was not forgotten. It was meticulously catalogued in a private encrypted file, ready for the New Year's detonation. Later that afternoon, I sat in the break room, pretending to struggle with a complex spreadsheet, the bait. Marcus sauntered in, holding a steaming mug, his face a mask of false sympathy. "Look, Elara," he began, leaning against the counter, "about the sweater. It's a bit much, and honestly, it reflects poorly on me. I need you to understand that appearance matters here. I'm thinking of sending you on a short, compulsory training seminar right before the New Year's Gala. It's mandatory. You wouldn't want to miss the gala, would you?" The New Year's Eve Gala, the firm's crowning event, held at the Sterling penthouse, where the final, crucial vote on the firm's Q4 restructuring was scheduled. A vote that, if passed, would finalize Marcus and his partner's hostile takeover and subsequent dismantling of the firm's core ethical division, the very division my grandfather cherished. Marcus wasn't offering training. He was arranging my exclusion. He wanted me out of the building, out of sight, and unable to raise any red flags before the vote. I played the sheepish, scared victim perfectly. Oh, Marcus. The gala is my only chance to meet the senior partners. I already bought a dress. Couldn't I just wear a different sweater tomorrow? He smiled, a chilling, predatory flash of teeth. No, Elara. This training is crucial. You'll be in a hotel conference room, studying compliance reports. No phones, no contact. An early holiday assignment. Think of it as a necessary sacrifice for your career. He placed a crisp, official-looking memo on the counter. It was dated December 31st, the day of the gala. His eyes were cold, triumphant. He believed I was defeated. He believed his meticulously planned coup was flawless. But Marcus Thorne had made two fatal mistakes. He mistook politeness for weakness, and he didn't realize that the official training memo he had just handed me was the final piece of evidence I needed. The date on the memo proved his intent to forcibly exclude an analyst from a key vote, a serious compliance violation, and one small part of the crushing mountain of proof I had collected over 6 months. I watched him walk away, the jingle of my reindeer nose providing the only sound. The mask of Elara Vance slipped for a fraction of a second, replaced by Alexandra Sterling's calculating gaze. The humiliation was nearly complete. Now, the planning phase was over. The stage was set. The New Year's Gala wouldn't be a celebration for Marcus. It would be his reckoning, and I had the perfect dress for the occasion. The last 2 weeks of December were a masterclass in psychological warfare orchestrated by Marcus Thorne. The ugly sweater incident had merely been the overture. The campaign against Elara Vance escalated into a sophisticated, daily erosion of her professional standing, a rapid-fire series of humiliations designed to cement her departure. Marcus started by revoking my access to key client files, claiming I was overwhelmed and needed a lighter load before my mandatory training. This forced me to ask other analysts for basic data, making me appear incompetent and dependent. He would loudly interrupt my conversations with Mrs. Albright, the senior partner, always concluding his interjection with a dismissive phrase like, "Don't worry, Elara, leave the complex thinking to us." The firm was gearing up for the New Year's Eve Gala. The trading floor buzzed with anticipation, not for the ball drop, but for the Q4 restructuring vote scheduled just an hour before midnight. This was the moment Marcus planned to finalize his predatory control, using my enforced absence to ensure his slim majority. Every day, he walked past my desk, the smugness radiating off him like heat from a furnace. He was untouchable, convinced his power was absolute. The final decisive act of cruelty came on Christmas Eve. Sterling and Coworkers held a small private lunch for the essential staff who had to work the truncated day. I was deliberately seated at a small, folding table near the service entrance, a clear, physical manifestation of my diminished status. Marcus, meanwhile, was holding court at the massive mahogany table, flanked by his conspirators. During the customary holiday toast, Marcus raised his crystal flute, his eyes locking onto mine with malicious glee. "To Sterling and Co., and to a future of lean efficiency," he declared, his voice rich with hypocrisy. Then he paused, turning his attention to me. "And to our dear Elara. We received a lovely little holiday card from her grandmother. Such dedication to tradition, a truly touching, if slightly amateur watercolor painting of, is that a very sad-looking squirrel?" The room erupted in laughter. He had found the small personal card I had intentionally placed on my desk, a minor detail to complete the persona of the simple girl, and was now weaponizing it. "And since Elara won't be joining us for the gala, attending her crucial training instead," Marcus continued, delivering the fatal blow, "I thought we'd pool our resources for a little gift to help her transition into her next chapter." He signaled an assistant, who walked over and placed a large, cheaply wrapped box on my service table. "Go on, Elara, open it. Show everyone your generous Christmas bonus." My heart, which had been beating calmly through 6 months of deceit, hammered once in pure, justified rage. The humiliation was total. This was not a bonus. This was a severance package, handed to me publicly as a final insult before the new year. I peeled back the paper, revealing a generic box containing an e-book reader, the lowest cost model. "Ah, a Kindle," Marcus exclaimed. "Perfect for all that reading you'll be doing in the training room, far away from the complexities of real finance. Happy holidays, Elara. We'll miss your unique contributions." I looked up, meeting his eyes. For the first time, the mask almost failed. The raw, cold fury of Alexandra Sterling was barely contained, but the years of discipline held. I managed a shaky, tearful smile. "Thank you, Marcus. It's very thoughtful." I choked out the words, giving him the final, satisfying taste of his victory. Inside, I was calculating. The e-book reader, the forced training memo, the seating arrangement. Every act was now a prosecutable offense. Not just social cruelty, but evidence of a pattern of harassment and attempted malfeasance designed to undermine corporate governance. Over the next 5 days, I finalized the plan. While Marcus celebrated a triumphant, quiet Christmas, believing his enemy was neutralized, Alexandra Sterling was executing the final moves of her corporate checkmate from a discreet, soundproof office at Phoenix Financial. The first move, the dress. I hadn't lied to Marcus. I had bought a dress for the gala. It wasn't the simple frock of a junior analyst. It was a couture masterpiece, chosen by my personal stylist, radiating an authority that belonged only to owners. The second move, the data. The core of my revenge rested on the evidence. Marcus and his cabal had been moving Sterling's major accounts into a shadow entity. Austerity Holdings. I had the paper trail, time-stamped emails, encrypted ledgers, and the signed original transfer documents. My security team at Phoenix had remotely downloaded the entire log from Sterling's unmonitored backup servers, the exact servers Marcus had been using to delete his tracks. The third move, the timing. The grand reveal had to happen at the climax of the night, when Marcus's confidence was highest, and the maximum number of high-profile witnesses were present. The New Year's Gala at the Sterling penthouse was perfect. It was my house, my stage, my rules. New Year's Eve, 10 p.m. I stood outside the Sterling penthouse grand ballroom. I wasn't wearing the ugly sweater, nor the frightened expression of Elara Vance. My reflection showed Alexandra Sterling, poised, ruthless, and terrifyingly elegant in a dress the color of midnight frost. Marcus had ensured the security list excluded Elara Vance, but the list did not exclude Alexandra Sterling, owner and CEO of Phoenix Financial. My forged Sterling ID, used for 6 months, was replaced by my legitimate corporate seal and Phoenix access key. The 2 Sterling security guards at the penthouse entrance checked their manifest. They were looking for the simple analyst. They saw only the woman who looked like she could buy and sell the entire floor. "Name?" one asked, intimidated by my mere presence. "Alexandra Sterling," I stated, my voice low and steady. "And I believe Mr. Thorne is expecting a very special, belated delivery from me before the midnight vote." The guards, seeing the name of the founding family and the aura of undeniable wealth, stepped aside instantly. I walked through the double doors and into the dazzling ballroom. The Q4 vote was already in progress. Marcus was at the head of the room, beaming, a glass of champagne permanently affixed to his hand. He was delivering his final, triumphant speech before the vote, his victory certain. The room was a shimmering tableau of New Year's hope for everyone but him. I moved silently to the back wall, merging with the shadows. I was early. I was the ghost in his machine. I watched him gloat for a full 15 minutes, letting his confidence reach maximum saturation. The stage was set. The knife was sharpened. The clock was ticking toward the final humiliation. Marcus Thorne stood before the assembled partners of Sterling and Coworkers, bathed in the glow of the massive chandelier and the promise of impending victory. It was 11:40 p.m. on New Year's Eve. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and desperate anticipation. He held the Q4 restructuring proposal aloft, a document that, once passed, would transfer the firm's most valuable assets into his control. "And so, ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his voice booming with the confidence of a man who believed he had outsmarted fate, "we usher in the new year with a promise of efficiency, profitability, and decisive leadership. With the junior analyst role temporarily vacant," he paused, delivering a final veiled jab, "and all dissenting voices duly handled, the vote stands ready. Who votes for the restructuring and the glorious new era of Sterling?" Hands shot up around the main table. Marcus was smiling, nodding, counting his majority. The victory was inevitable. He had eliminated all obstacles, including the easily crushed analyst, Elara Vance. It was precisely 11:45 p.m. Before Marcus could formally close the vote, a new voice cut through the celebratory murmur. A voice that was low, clear, and imbued with an authority that stopped the counting instantly. "I believe, Mr. Thorne, that you are missing one crucial vote." Every head turned. Marcus's smile froze mid-contraction. He squinted at the back of the room, seeing the woman who now detached herself from the shadows. She was impossibly elegant, radiating cold, hard power. Her midnight frost dress was an armor. He didn't recognize her. "I apologize, madam, but this is a private partner meeting," Marcus said, attempting to regain control, the first edge of confusion entering his voice. "Security! Escort this woman out." The two security guards, who had ushered me in minutes earlier, stood frozen. "They won't move, Marcus," I stated, walking slowly toward the mahogany table. My steps were deliberate, echoing on the marble floor. "Because they know who I am. And you, Marcus, are about to find out." I stopped directly across the table from him. His eyes scanned my face, searching for a familiarity he couldn't grasp. Who are you?" he stammered, his confidence finally cracking, replaced by genuine alarm. I reached up to my hair and, with a single, precise movement, removed the cheap plastic hair clip I had worn every day for 6 months. I let my identity fall. The tightly scraped-back ponytail of Elara Vance released into the long, sophisticated, auburn waves of Alexandra Sterling. "My name is Alexandra Sterling," I announced, the name hanging in the air like a death sentence. "And I am not an analyst. I am the sole, majority-stake heir to Sterling and Coworkers, and the silent CEO of Phoenix Financial." The room went silent, a sudden vacuum of disbelief. Gasps erupted like physical blows. Marcus Thorne turned the color of ash. He finally saw it, the terrifying, undeniable resemblance to my grandfather, the founding patriarch. No, that's impossible," Marcus whispered, clutching the restructuring document. "Elara Vance, You were hired 6 months ago. You had no prior experience. The Elara Vance you hired was a persona, I interrupted, my voice perfectly steady. A strategic placeholder. I needed 6 months on the inside to confirm my suspicions about the systematic theft occurring in this firm. Thank you for making my job so easy, Marcus. Your calculated cruelty was highly informative. I then placed 2 items on the table. The first was the cheap electronic e-book reader he had given me as a humiliation bonus on Christmas Eve. The second was a single, pristine white envelope marked Austerity Holdings. You were so kind to give me this e-reader, Marcus, I said, picking up the device. You thought it would keep me busy in my mandatory training, but I didn't use it for reading. I used it to store something far more valuable. I pressed a button. The e-reader, which was cleverly disguised as a flash drive, projected a pristine, massive, 3-dimensional ledger onto the far wall, covering the entire Sterling logo. The scrolling text was impossible to ignore. Marcus Thorne's fraudulent transfers log. The system you created to delete the original files was ingenious, Marcus. But you forgot one crucial detail: backup redundancies. This ledger details every single asset you diverted from Sterling & Co. Pune into your shell company, Austerity Holdings, over the past 3 years. The evidence is time-stamped, verifiable, and now public. I stepped back, allowing the horrified partners to see the extent of his betrayal. The numbers were astronomical. Marcus was swaying slightly, his tailored suit suddenly looking like a borrowed costume. Then came the final, brutal twist, the ultimate inversion of power, linked to the very reason I was here. And your final act of desperation, I continued, pointing at the restructuring document in his shaking hand, was this vote. You knew I was a complication, so you fabricated a mandatory training seminar to exclude me from the company for the week of the vote. You even gave me the memo yourself. I picked up the white envelope. Inside this envelope is a complaint I filed with the SEC this afternoon, detailing your pattern of professional harassment, corporate espionage, and the intentional violation of governance rules by forcibly excluding a voting partner, myself, from a critical meeting. The document is supported by the very training memo you gave me, which you signed. Marcus finally found his voice, a desperate, strangled rasp. You'll ruin the firm. If you report this, Sterling sinks. I smiled, a cold, predatory look that mirrored the power he had sought to wield. No, Marcus, I corrected him. You ruined the firm. I'm simply performing the necessary surgical removal. And as the majority shareholder, I have already counteracted the Q4 restructuring. I had my security team, Phoenix's security team, lock down all Sterling accounts 20 minutes ago. The assets are safe. Your vote is invalid. I walked up to him. The gap closed. I looked down at the man who had mocked my cheap clothes, laughed at my simple card, and publicly humiliated me for 6 months. As for your final Christmas bonus, I said, picking up the box the e-reader had come in. I handed the empty box to him. Consider this your official, effective immediately, termination notice. The new year starts now, Marcus. Happy Réveillon. As the clock outside the penthouse began to chime for midnight, marking the arrival of the new year, the security detail finally moved. Not toward me, but toward Marcus. The inversion was complete. As they led a silent, utterly defeated Marcus Thorne away, the entire ballroom erupted in a wave of relief and whispered awe. Alexandra Sterling watched the fireworks explode over the city skyline. A spectacular, fiery curtain call on 6 months of calculated vengeance. The Herdera had returned,